back, everybody, to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye, some of the finest men in all of the United States. No, now I'm just going into... Never mind, I lost myself there. I tried to do the whole Wilson Fisk voice, and then I was just ranting into nonsense. But what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Oh, man, every time... something Marvel or, something that Disney has cooked up. Now I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, is it going to be good? But thankfully, this is one of those shows that's like, yeah, without a doubt, it's going to be good. And that we're looking forward to, especially after last season, which was last year, right? Or was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, no, it was last year. We didn't wait long at all for this follow-up.
Yeah, I think I remember I was talking about last year, and I'm like, I'm hoping we get it like ASAP because the last season was so great. And if you haven't guessed it already, everyone, we're talking about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Electric Boogaloo. Because like Bern and I said, the last one came out last year, like earlier in the year. So that's why I was kind of like tripping on it a little bit. But that was easily one of the best Marvel shows. Kind of like, I feel like that's what that show has done for Marvel, like what Andor did for Star Wars. Like this is another side of Marvel that people have been wanting to see. Like, yeah, we had the Netflix series a little over 10 years ago, but those were kind of, short-lived. And once Disney Plus started coming out around COVID. So, anyways, this is going to be a spoiler review, so Bern and I are going to, after we give our initial rantings, what we thought about it, we are going to start talking about stuff that, what we liked, maybe what things could have been improved on, so it will be spoiler territory, so if you haven't watched all the season, come on back for the spoilers, that way you can kind of deep dive in with us and, comment what you liked about this show as well. No spoilers in the comments, though, let's not do that, but anyways... Yeah, so just real quick, Daredevil Season 2 basically takes place right after Season 1, in which Fisk is now mayor of New York. He's closed off the city, kind of taken over, almost introduced martial law into it. And, Matt Murdock as Daredevil is just struggling to kind of fight his regime in New York, and also... but both their identities and personal lives start getting mixed into it a little bit. So not only is he fighting crime, but he's also fighting himself in a way. And after last year, I thought, man, that was one of the best shows. Like, we got Daredevil and we got Punisher back. Vincent D'Onofrio killed it as the Kingpin compared to the last few iterations, like in Echo, which wasn't bad, but it's
or
not
Hawkeye.
Or Hawkeye, exactly. Good point, Bernie. But, man, I think this season may be better than the last one, to be honest, even though I was very bummed it did not have Punisher in it whatsoever. I was real sad, but for what we missed out on Punisher-wise, it made up for in everything else. And I think this is, again, one of the strongest seasons of a television I've seen in a while. So I'm going to give this one a hard 5 out of 5. Daredevil, just the Daredevil... first 3 seasons and the Born Again seasons are some of the best Marvel television we've got. So, yeah, I can't recommend this enough. If you do have Disney Plus, this is the show to watch, like, right now. So, yeah, 5 out of 5 from me. What did you think about it, Bern?
I mean, I thought this was a great season of TV, like you did. As much as I did like, the first season of Born Again, bringing everybody back and getting the whole crew from Netflix back together, that season, unfortunately, it did feel a little bit uneven, and for obvious reasons, because of the big, rework they did about halfway through production in that season. And although I thought it started and ended really well, there was parts in the middle that felt like, they were a part of a different show at times. But, with the way that, it set things up for this season, I thought I was very much interested in seeing what they were going to do. And this season did not disappoint. I think... just like, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, this show just was running on all cylinders from episode 1 all the way to episode 8. Again, I, as a person who's incredibly biased because, Daredevil's my favorite Marvel character, I was just eating everything up this time around. All the subplots, of all these characters that I didn't really care about too much in the first season. This time around, I was very much invested in. Obviously the two big leads here, in their parallel stories. I'm always going to be interested in it. And Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox are fantastic in the roles, and and the characters have so much to work with this time around. So I was always going to be interested in that. It was like all the other stuff. Is this all gonna work? And it made me, by the end of the season, really really like invested again in all these other characters. And I thought the action sequences were a lot of fun. Again, the different camera effects they used for Daredevil's powers. Just stylistically, this season felt like it was very coherent from beginning to end, and I really did appreciate that. So this is definitely, I agree with you, one of the better single seasons of anything Marvel, Disney Plus related, for sure. And I think, honestly, probably one of the better seasons of the Daredevil series as a whole, including the Netflix stuff. I will say it doesn't quite hit, the season 3 Daredevil. I think that's probably just one of the best seasons of any comic book show ever. And, I can't really say that this show, like, quite gets there, but it gets really close. And what it does is give me, as a Daredevil fan, almost everything I wanted. So I couldn't be happier with this season TV, and whatever they set up for next season, I'm very much looking forward to. So yeah, for me, this one's going to be a hard 4 out of 5. Great show. I as a Daredevil fan, I'm so happy right now.
As well, you should be. It's one of those things. I think Daredevil needed that proper blend of the MCU flavor with it, mixed with the Netflix one. So yeah, I do agree. I think my favorite season is still 2, just because we got Elektra and Punisher in that one. But anyways, yeah. So 5 out of 5 for me, 4 out of 5 for Burn. Both resounding positive emotions from both of us regarding this one. So yeah, definitely check it out. Finish it up if you're in the middle of watching it. But now is about that time we get into a little bit of the spoiler territory. So like I said, if you haven't watched all of it yet, come on back when you're ready. But let's get started, shall we? Again, Burn, since you and I are both pretty optimistic and happy with this season, what would you say it was like? What are you most excited to get off your chest? What did you like most about this one, or any episode or character, whatever? Go ahead and get the ball rolling, my dude.
I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind, and probably will for a lot of people, is Bullseye. Bullseye was a lot of fun this season, and we didn't get much of him in the first one. Basically, it's kind of like bookended the season, where we saw him in the beginning when he kills Foggy, and then at the end when he makes an attempt on Kingpin's life and then starts to hide away. But I thought what they did with his character in this season was so interesting, and was kind of like the whole thesis of this season as a whole, about forgiveness and redemption and grace. Grace is the big word that comes to mind for this season, where you have the Daredevil and Kingpin, who have been at each other's throats for all of like 5 seasons of TV basically, and unfortunately New York is the thing that's caught in the middle of it, and we see that destructive force and like how it's like getting to a boiling point that's unmanageable, right? So in those moments where we see Matt interacting with the man that killed his best friend, and offering some sort of like way to like walk away from this without like killing each other, I thought it was so interesting, and how that affects Bullseye too. How he's like, he wants to do better. He in his own messed up way, of course, but like him like wanting to do this one good deed, right, to sort of wipe the slate clean of the thing that he did in killing Foggy. Again, it set up it was a microcosm of the bigger themes that this season was exploring, and not to mention the action sequences with Bullseye this time around were so much fun, especially that diner sequence in the beginning of episode 4. Really, really cool stuff. So that was the thing that came to mind for me immediately, just the Bullseye stuff, basically.
I'm so glad you brought it up. Yeah, I couldn't stand him in season 3 because that was like his intro. And then, last season I hated him because he did kill Foggy. But this was that one where it's like, man, I kind of like this guy now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to like a villain, but he's also like a stone cold sociopath. So take it with a grain of salt. But I just loved Charlie Cox's portrayal of Daredevil, like struggling to find, like, essentially be the better person, be the hero he's meant to be. Especially that episode, I think was 5 or 6 after Bullseye tried to kill Fisk, and Matt still opted to save him, even though he could have let him die. He should have let him die probably, but and then Karen and him have that argument that, you let these guys live, people die, which is the biggest argument against like characters like him, Spider-Man, Batman of DC. And I just like that Matt's like, no, we can't slip to their level or else we're no better than they are. And it's just that I just like that typical debate kind of playing out in this one, and seeing how it affects everybody in a different way. But yeah, that diner scene, I remember I was messaging when I was watching. I was like, oh my god, dude, this is easily one of the most messed up but coolest things ever. Like he makes like some of the characters that kind of come to mind with all the trick shots and stuff are like Green Arrow and Deadshot. That scene alone was like that's exactly what we see in the comics come to real life. So that was spot on, and I like the adaptation of his suit, because given the comic book version is definitely more theatrical looking, a little weird, but this one definitely had a more grounded tactical look to it while still staying faithful to the comics. So man, it's he gave very much vibes of like Joker and Punisher rolled into this one character, just complete psychopath, but man, is he just deadly with anything. It's kind of scary how good it is. So I really like that. But yeah, talking about looks real quick, I just got to get this off my chest. I didn't know how I felt about the black Daredevil suit. I thought, man, like, is it gonna look good? But it actually did a really good job of it, where it's almost like he's like covered in black. Instead of like going all blacked out, it's almost like they painted it black, and you could still see shades of red in there. Like it's almost like a camo look, if anything. And I thought that was really it actually worked out really well this season. I was very surprised. Kind of like the ketchup and mustard version in She-Hulk. Didn't think that would work out on that suit, but man, Daredevil just has one of the best looks in Marvel. That's just pretty much it for me.
Yeah, I mean the suit from the first season of Born Again, and then now with the black paint over it, really cool idea. And like I really did enjoy like how as the season went on and how it took more damage, like more and more the red sort of like seeped through. It was kind of a cool combination of like his standard red Daredevil suit and that black ninja suit that we saw him in the first season of the Netflix show and the third season. Really cool blend of the two. I liked, and on the flip side, I did really like sort of how Kingpin's wardrobe sort of evolved throughout the season. How he's in his standard white for a long time, and then once he loses Vanessa, he kind of doesn't default completely, but we get to see him in the black more, like how this is who he was without her, and now he's kind of reverting back in a way, and now he has a white coat over a black shirt, and they're implementing those elements into the costumes to sort of inform us where these characters and their headspaces are at. It was really cool how they did that. But I think what was really also really cool about this season, and I don't know if if this was something that you caught on to too, but how it was sort of like the inverse of last season, where predominantly in season 1 of Born Again, Matt is not in the Daredevil suit. He's primarily as himself, doing a lot of lawyer stuff. We get a lot of courtroom scenes in that one, and he's trying to stay away from the Daredevil persona. And this time around, he's like full on Daredevil the whole time, and he's doing his Daredevil thing, and it culminates instead into that courtroom sequence that we get at the end of the season. So I thought that was a cool flip from how they sort of done things in the past, where they try to settle things in the courtroom first, and then it sort of devolves into the superhero like beat 'em up stuff, where only Daredevil can be the one to like solve this issue. But in this one was the flip side of that, where it's, he's Daredevil the entire time, and then at the end has to default back into Matt Murdock, the lawyer, to sort of save the day. So I thought that was really cool.
I mean, like you were talking about, like the dichotomy of these two characters, like how they're two sides of the same coin. Like they both have a similar path throughout this entire series. Both the Born Again and the original Daredevil series. And like you said, the inverted looks are definitely the easiest and probably the most impactful way to show they're the what's going on inside their characters. Like they're both at war with not only with each other but with themselves as well. Like when Fisk lost Vanessa like near the end of the show, and then Matt just wrestling like, do I save? am I wrong to save Bullseye, and do I should I feel bad for any of these villains kind of thing. So I thought I really like that aspect. Good eye on pointing out that he's mostly in the suit this time. Now that I think about it, you're right. Like last season, he didn't want anything to do with Daredevil just because he's just done with the vigilante life because it got Foggy killed, or at least he blamed himself for that. But this time he knows, like, I have to do something. I can't sit on the sidelines anymore, because that's how Fisk got into power. So I just really like that aspect. And honestly, the side characters, even in Fisk's camp, like, the therapist and Michael Gandolfini's character, I still didn't like them, but they did such a great job, and they're so entertaining, and you do relate to them. The therapist dealing with the PTSD from Matt leaving her, and now she's also conflicted with herself, like not only with the fear of everything, but what's really right and wrong with the vigilantism. And then Michael Gandolfini, like you and I kind of talked about, he kind of followed a similar trend of almost in a red pill way, but Marvel version, where he kind of sold his soul to Fisk and just was doubling down on everything. But really, he was just a young guy who was just trying to be more than what he wanted to be, and end up. Again, I couldn't stand him last season or much of this season, but his last moment with Buck, I think, really was the moment I was like, man, great job, dude. Not only a great actor, but your character I felt really bad for. So I thought that was just great performances all around.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the biggest glow up, I think definitely the side characters this time around got a lot to work with, and I really like that they gave them a lot more to do, and gave them interesting storylines, like the Daniel Buck relationship from the beginning of this season. I like the way that it evolves, and how Buck is trying to pull him more and more to this darker side, but there are points where you see, like, Daniel's not completely all the way with it, and it culminates into the scene where he kills him, unfortunately, and that was that the way that those two actors worked off of each other, and the way that their storyline progressed through the season. Once we hit the end of that penultimate episode, it feels like such a gut punch, because you're like, there really was no other way for this to go. But I was hoping there until to the very end that Buck wouldn't pull that trigger, so it hurt even more when he did. So if you had asked me in the first season if I cared if Daniel was going to live or die, I would have said no. But by the great credit to the writers to get me to that point where that felt like such a loss at the end of that episode. So really did enjoy that a lot. And yeah, what they did with Heather, I did not care for her character at all in the first season, but everything they've done with her, and sort of her slow decline of mental health throughout this season, and seeing all those images of the PTSD of her seeing Muse throughout, and her slowly unraveling, a lot more interesting this time around than just another sort of throwaway love interest for Matt Murdock that we had in the first season.
Yeah, I mean, her and Michael Gandolfini are the characters you love to hate, just because they're such monsters for their actions in the show. But again, I did relate to Heather. You do feel bad, you do empathize with her, is what I meant to say. And Michael Gandolfini, man, yeah, his death was so tragic. I was like, damn, that's a horrible way to go, but it is what it is.
And even on the flip side, McDuffie, Kristen McDuffie, I didn't, she was kind of a non-character in the entirety of the first season, but I liked seeing her trying to be the one that's trying to hold, the whole lawyer side of the show together. She's trying to fight this, this oppressive system without the help of Matt, her co-counsel. So she's just trying to scrape by and trying to fight this beast. And again, a lot more interesting things for her to do this time around, which I found really enjoyable, and I'm glad that it culminated into, again, the court sequence at the end of the series.
Yeah, the side characters in general for both Fisk's team and Matt's resistance, they definitely stepped up, and I agree with you. They contributed to the story as a whole, and I actually think that the two biggest additions for this season, which were Matthew Lillard as Mr. Charles, and just bringing back Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones, was those were so fun. I mean, Matthew Lillard, I feel like, is very hit and miss. I don't care for him in the Five Nights at Freddy movie, but I do like him in this. He gave off very Sicario vibes in a way, where he's kind of like a smartass, like he's definitely in control of the room, but at the same time, like he's still just doing his job. Like I just liked. I'm trying to figure. I liked his snottiness, I guess, in this one. Like just trying to kind of kind of almost keeping Fisk humble to a certain extent, until obviously Fisk lost his mind and just said, "No, I'm good. I'm on my own." And it was just great seeing Jessica Jones again. It was kind of like, I never saw the second season of Jessica Jones, so I'm a little bummed out by that. But that Defender show kind of killed. I think that's what the biggest factor was for me in not finishing the season twos of like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, was just because that Defenders show sucked. I was so looking forward to it, and it was just very disappointing. But it's great seeing her back in action with this one. I loved her dynamic with Matt, and even the moment she had with Matthew Lillard's character, because they've been in each other's radar for a little bit. It was just so much fun. Perfect blend of like a little bit of nostalgia, but also just adding new flavor to the TV side of the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, look, as disappointing as that Defenders show was, the best part, I think everyone could agree, of that series, of that little mini series, was the banter between Matt and Jessica. The how Charlie and Kristen Ritter just like bounced off of each other. It was great. All their scenes together were just like everything you wanted in that show, and unfortunately, nothing else like sort of lived up to that. So to get her here for the back half of the season. Really great stuff. I mean, it felt like she had never left, and felt like they picked up right where that show left off, many, many years ago. But it was a perfect character to sort of, start introducing a lot of the bigger sort of like superhero elements of, the previous series. I know the Marvel, like, universe as a whole. And just enough to keep it grounded too, because that character in her series is a little bit more of like she's like a private eye, it's a little bit more street level, so it's not like too big of a thing, and of course they're them bouncing off each other just works great, and again all their scenes together and their fight sequences together were really fun. So I'm glad that they really got a lot out of that character for the brief moments that we had her. Hopefully next season we'll get more, but in the few instances that we did, those were always like parts that I was always glued to the screen, because I was like, I wonder what they're gonna do next. So that was great, and yeah, Matthew Litter's character as Mr. Charles, so much fun. I loved his devil may care attitude. I loved again how you said how he's sort of like keeping Kingpin in check. How he's like saying like you're just kind of like a big fish in a small pond, and considering who he works for in Valentina Contessa, or Val, or from the Thunderbolts. He's got a lot of pull, and the way that the season ends with him and Bullseye going off together, and him being like his man, that sets up a lot of interesting things coming forward. So liked his introduction, was very much liked how he bounced off of Kingpin, and how he just kind of kept scenes very unpredictable. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, those two additions to the season, great stuff. I liked every minute of it.
Yeah, and for me, the last thing, unless there's, and obviously Burn, of course, if there's more stuff you want to talk about, it's all for you. But I guess the last thing I just want to really like highlight was the season finale for this one, man, where not only did Charlie Cox Iron Man himself by saying "I am Daredevil," that was great. I like that both characters had their own hallway scene. Like Daredevil's already had one. I think his was definitely one of those moments that, after the Daredevil hallway scene, Star Wars did it a couple times, and then it's almost like one of those things, like a rite of passage for some of these action series and movies now, where somebody has to have a badass, confined close quarter space in a hallway. But Kingpins, that was whew. I was watching, I was like, this is straight up horrifying. I don't know why you'd want to go against this guy. Like, even if there's a bunch of you, it ain't gonna work out. And him walking out with that white suit covered in blood and people still rushing in, I'm like, if I was in the crowd, I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm staying right here. I'll yell from here. You guys can go out there. But I thought it was one of the strongest finales we had. Kind of set this play. It almost set the it almost set the stage for a season 3 if they want to keep going. I'm pretty sure it's going to end here though.
No, they're shooting season 3 right
Oh,
now.
they are shooting season. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I wasn't 100%. I didn't know that. So thank you, Brent.
So we don't have to wait long again, which is nice.
Thank God. Okay, good. I thought that was just like a 2-part thing. So thank you, Bern. I thought it set the stage for that. And it was a very bittersweet ending. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but honestly, the more I played in my head, it was very poetic how it happened. That, Matt and him having that conversation that, you know what? If we keep going like this, the city's just going to get worse. What if we both just stop doing what we're doing and just let the city go back? Because it's one of those things. They love the city in their own individual way. Both aren't perfect whatsoever, but that's everybody's the hero of their own stories. So I thought that was really cool to kind of see that. Jessica Jones with the alias investigations. I know that was a big thing for fans to see. My only thing was, I keep going, Bern, is like, if this is new, did they say when this happened? Was this after Spider-Man No Way Home, or was this like in the middle of all that? Do we know? I don't think so.
I mean, my I don't know. I think that.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't really care.
I'm thinking. Honest. Well, I'm just one of those. It's one of those things. I'm like, where's Peter Parker in all this, man? All this chaos and stuff. Why isn't he webbing people up? But that's just.
I mean, I guess
that's just the connection to. It's just like one of those things. As a MCU fan, I just want the connection to the greater thing. But that's just me being nitpicky on it.
Yeah, that's something again. I just don't really care about it. I mean, I like this little corner of the universe. If they want to like bring in all these other bigger elements, then cool. I think I read somewhere that this takes place like during Secret Wars or whatever. I don't know. I mean the whole larger MCU as a storyline as a whole, I could care less at this point. Just give me really cool individual stories, and this one gave us a really cool individual story. Like the finale was a huge hit for me. I thought it was one of the strongest finales that we've gotten in these Disney Plus shows, which tend to sort of struggle with giving us satisfying endings. But the way it set everything up for what's to come in season 3, with again Matt revealing himself as Daredevil and ending up in jail, and Kingpin going into isolation. We get a Luke Cage back, in that brief scene with him and Jessica Jones. So the way that they set things up, it makes for like what I feel like it's a season 3 that can kind of go in any direction that they want. I'm very curious where they're going to go with this, because I can't really predict how things are going to turn out with all the players and the puzzle pieces where they are. So that sets up a very interesting season 3 that feels like it could be a little bit different from everything we've gotten, previously. Where these individual stories are really cool, but at the end of the day, they kind of default into Daredevil versus Kingpin and fighting over the heart of the city, right? So, where these two characters are at now, there's the potential's there for something really, really off the wall and a little bit unpredictable. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to whatever they do next.
Yeah, of course, and like I said, I mean, I do agree with you. It is better that. It's nice that we get these more concentrated stories, so they feel like the character's actual story is not just a cog in the machine. It was just one of those things. I still like, half of me wants that, half of me wants the bigger spectacle of things, especially just with the Spider-Man trailer having Punisher in there. I'm just like, damn it, why aren't you there for Daredevil? But that's just, again, me being ridiculous. But yeah, like I said, I think this show was damn near perfect, like this season especially, very much like Andor season 2. These have been some of my favorite things for offerings from Disney Plus. Anything else that popped out at you, or do you think they could have improved on it all, Bern?
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, I was a kid in a candy store this whole season. So yeah, in all the ways as a Daredevil fan that I was hoping they would do this series justice. Season 2 delivered on almost pretty much all fronts. Again, it's just season 3 just feels like an unachievable thing for me right now. So that's kind of like the 5 out of 5 parameter. So not to say that the show can't, but if they continue the way they have with the quality of this season, I think they can definitely hit that, because this was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what direction to take in 3. It's definitely be a toss-up, but yeah, that's about it for the spoiler side of things. Like Bern said, he was ecstatic, probably grinning like an idiot every episode just because it was that good. And I was just enjoying it too, man. I binged the crap out of this as soon as I got a chance. So, yeah. Like I said, for those of you who did happen to watch all this, no spoiling in the comments, but feel free to let us know what you liked about this one. What are your hopes for, the next season? Do you want to see certain characters? Do you want to see more MCU characters come into it, or would you rather see street level people like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage come into it? But as always, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch you all on the next one.